In sorting through all of the sexual harassment allegations that are very much in the news, I was thinking about the Roy Moore accusers and the Al Franken accusers and how the ones who have gone on television or where there's photographic evidence, it just seems to have more impact, and I'm a lifelong newspaper guy, than even the most carefully done print interview, because people can watch them, they can assess their credibility, they can see if how they describe what allegedly happened. And that was particularly true yesterday on the Today Show when Lee Korfman, who was the woman accusing Alabama Senate candidate Roy Moore, who says she was 14 at the time that he tried to have sex with her, she spoke to the NBC audience. She had previously told the story on the record to the Washington Post, but in watching her, I found her to be calm and measured, and to be sort of be careful not to overstate the facts. So among the things that Lee Korfman said on the Today Show was she didn't say that she was sexually assaulted by Moore, who was 32 years old at the time. Again, that she was 14. He said he tried to seduce her. That he brought her to his house, that he took off most of her clothes, he took off most of his clothes, he touched her, but she said that when she objected, he drove her back to her home. So I thought that was interesting. She also said she hadn't come out with this before because originally she was a single mother with 2 young kids. Later, her older children objected to the notion of going public, but they thought it might hurt them. And it was only because the Washington Post approached her that she felt now, nearly 4 decades later, that she could tell her story. She also said, rather than getting anything out of it, and this was her first TV appearance, almost 2 weeks, I guess, after this first surfaced, that she's had to take a leave from her job and that this has hurt her financially. In the Franken case, we had Leanne Tweeden holding a televised press conference and speaking to CNN. And so again, you can kind of assess the credibility of this Los Angeles radio host as she described what happened with Al Franken, but also she had that photo, which was actually sent to her. I mean, that's just weird, where Franken has his hands over her breasts and is grinning and obviously using her as a kind of a prop while she was sleeping on a plane. And now there's a second accuser in the Franken case, and this is really significant, even though there's no photos here other than a photo of the two of them smiling that she posted on Facebook. This woman says that Al Franken grabbed her buttocks at the Minnesota State Fair in 2010, and Franken said she was offended. He's apologized. He doesn't remember the incident. But the significance here is, unlike the earlier episode when he was a comedian who was thinking about getting into politics, he's a United States Senator in 2010 when this incident allegedly took place. Now, while the political world is churning over all this, the New York Times yesterday suspended Glenn Thrush, high-profile White House correspondent and MSNBC contributor, over several allegations of sexual harassment written in the liberal site Vox by a woman whose name is Laura McGann, who says that she herself was what would you say? That the way she says that they were in a bar and he unexpectedly kissed her and she was upset by that and she left. And she says Glenn Thrush sent her an apologetic email the next day. She also interviewed 3 other women. One said she had a drunken, consensual encounter with Glenn Thrush that left her shaken. The 2 other women, most of this took place when he was a reporter at Politico with colleagues at Politico, including Laura McGann, said there were incidents of unwanted kissing or touching. Now, here's what Glenn Thrush has to say about all this. He said he is apologizing to any woman who felt uncomfortable in my presence and for any situation where I behaved inappropriately, although he challenges Laura McGann's account on some points. He said he was deeply sorry for the most recent incident, which occurred back in June. Glenn Thrush also says that over the past several years, I've responded to a succession of personal and health crises by drinking heavily. He's done things that he is ashamed of, actions that have brought great hurt to my family and friends, and he's now going to begin an outpatient program for alcoholism. New York Times saying in a statement describing the suspension, it calls the allegations very concerning, not in keeping with the standards and values of the New York Times. So this story, if you can call it that, allegations that began with Harvey Weinstein and all these folks in Hollywood, continues to spread in the media, in politics, and I think particularly when you have the Senate candidate Roy Moore and the incumbent Senator Al Franken, the people who are viewing this, the voters in Alabama, Franken's constituents in Minnesota, need to make judgments about whether there's a pattern here, about the credibility of the accusers, and about the news organizations inevitably that report this. But one advantage of being on TV, you can go click on the NBC interview with Lee Korfman is that people who follow this can make their own judgments about who's telling the truth, how bad the incidents were, and what they think the appropriate political punishment should be.